I realize it's been a while since I did a video with any of my cups in them, so I decided to include a drink. I picked this cup for no particular reason other than the fact that it has not been featured, to my knowledge, to my recollection, in any of my videos thus far. I bought this because it reminds me of my profession, and it was something that made me laugh. So we all spend too much time thinking about work when we're at home, as it is. Last thing I need first thing in the morning is to pull out a visual reminder of my job, especially if it's a job that I may not want to go to. I've been debating for a long time about changing my profession, moving up, moving laterally to a different location, same title, or moving out entirely to a new vocation. But I have been trapped in indecision. Oftentimes I use methods, and there are many, some of which is to make a pros and cons list. Pros of staying, cons of staying. Pros of leaving, cons of leaving. Pros of making no choice, cons of making no choice. And you look at that list and you weigh where the most benefit cost analysis, where the most benefit and cost you can live with are, and that is the direction that you go into. Every time, that's just one modality where you can use to make a choice that is difficult. Another way to make a choice that is difficult is think about the choice and focus on how you feel in your body and in your insides. When you think about if there were no issues, if you wouldn't, there was no potential problem, you've already conquered all the problems that could come up for making your choice, and you're on the other side, successfully on the other side of that choice. You're in your new job, a different job, and you've already overcome all the fallout. You're in a new relationship with a person you're meant to be with versus struggling to upkeep, maintain, or fix a relationship that's broken with someone you're not supposed to be with. Imagine being in the outcome. How does that make you feel? Does it feel expansive, lightening? Does it feel mood uplifting? Does it make you feel lighter, breathe easier, feel bigger? Or does it feel heavy, moody, dark, compressive? That's your gut instincts trying to guide you in the right direction. That will give you more insight into which is your truer path. Another similar vein approach to making a choice that you find difficult, that you are ambivalent. The definition of ambivalent is not to not care. It's to find equal value in both. So you don't know which way to go because you're torn. You're torn because you're ambivalent. You either see positive and negative that are equally great or equally awful, depending on the fork in the road that you're at, paths to take, and you don't know which is worse, and so you're or better, and so you're paralyzed because they both seem fantastic or terrible and hard and difficult, and you don't know which way to go, and so you freeze. Or you're paralyzed because of fear. You fear the consequences of the change. You fear being able to manage the change. You fear new things. You fear not being competent. You fear loss of this current thing with potentiality of not manifesting anything new in your life, not having the capabilities to land on your feet again after the change. You imagine leaving this relationship and never finding anyone again, being alone, that there is no one that could match or be with you, and those feelings often have to do with insecurity about your own competency and your own worthiness. Because there's a lot of other fish in the sea. There's a lot of other job opportunities. When you make a choice, those are often the two things: fear of the fallout, fear of landing back in another positive place, or two choices that seem equal and you don't know which one to make. So you freeze and you're stuck in indecision. You can also ask yourself, when you're in that ambivalent place where both seem like greater or lesser, equal, get my words right, equal options, ask yourself, which is the bigger life for me? Which is the bigger, better fitting life for me? Similar to making yourself feel light and expansive. When you anticipate choice A or choice B, which one feels best? Feels like it opens up more doors, more opportunities. You'll be more satisfied and more contented living out that life. Imagine yourself actually living out the resolution of this situation, choice A, or living out the resolution in choice B. You have a job opportunity in New York City, or you debate moving back home towards your family when you have children. Do you take that job and take those kids and live in a big city and pursue your career? Or do you move back to a small town and focus on your family and find a way to make your career fit somehow? Both of those could seem equally positive and negative. When you look at yourself, your unique individual self, and your life structure and your family structure, which one feels like a more bountiful fit for you if you actually imagine yourself playing out that scenario? Now, I'm talking about all this, and every time I seem to get out of indecision and make a move and making no decision, choosing not to make a decision, choosing to accept things as they are and just change your perspective on them, is itself a decision. As long as you consciously decide not to make a move, you've weighed the pros and cons, and you decide that actually you were just taking things for granted. There are a lot more positives than there are negatives. You're just feeling stressed and overwhelmed and burnt out in general, and any new place you go, you take yourself with you, and it's more of an internal problem than an external problem, etc., etc. When you sort things out, you realize you're actually quite fortunate to be where you are with what you have, in the relationship you're in the profession that you're in, and staying is a decision, a well thought out conscious decision not to make a change. that's a decision. But inaction, being paralyzed, being trapped in this constant ruminating, vacillation back and forth, not knowing what to do, is a terrible place to be. Because you are constantly burdened. Your energies, your mental energies are soaked up, and your stress is high, and you feel trapped and paralyzed, and you're not making any progress one way or the other. And whichever opportunity is out before you in either direction, you will end up never seizing either way. You will just be reliving history over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, permanently, perpetually stuck in the place that you already are, while ruminating over and over and over, soaking up precious mental, spiritual, psychiatric energy, stress, whether to or not to make this choice. Unless you make the conscious choice not to make a choice, then you have to change your perspective on how you see things as they are, and be contented and fulfilled with what you have, and work to be fulfilled with what you have, as long as what you have isn't legitimately toxic or damaging. You can work on your perspective. You can invest in your relationships. You can invest in your family. You can invest in your career. You can invest in yourself. You can invest in your situation, your mindset, and your mentality, and coping skills, and grow to be appreciative for what you have, and see it in a different light. If you love all you have all you need. Then you can let go, and you have to let go. If you're staying and not making either choice, you have to let go of the ruminating about choice A or B or C or D, or however many other options you are conceiving of. Or you're not free. You're still not free of that. And if you can't do that, then it's an indicator that something isn't right somewhere in your life, and you really do need to make a choice, and you need to make a move somewhere. There's nothing, well, there's few things more painful, agonizing to your psyche than to be stuck, mired, treading water in a tar pit, feeling like you're sinking up to your neck, barely holding your head above water, day after day after day after day, mired in a situation you don't want to be in, and not knowing what to do about it. So you don't do anything. Day after day after day after day, except think on it over and over and over and over again. Thus brings us to our quote. More is lost by indecision than wrong decision. At least if you go the wrong way, you've changed. The paralysis, the analysis paralysis, the stress and the burden of the current situation, and moved in some direction. And every direction has its pros and its cons, hence the pros and cons list of making the change over here or over here. And you then can reassess as things evolve after making a choice, even if it was the wrong decision. You lived it, you survived it, you will get through it, and what was, you don't fix what ain't broken. If it wasn't working to begin with, or you wouldn't have needed the change so bad. So if you end up making a mistake, at least it's an opportunity to learn what not to do the next time. Analyze what is and isn't working about this new situation, and where you go from here. More often than not, You're not going to make a tremendous unfixable mistake. Few things are unfixable. They might cause a little issue for a while, but few things are unfixable, unsurvivable. You won't turn it back around, and you can't change it again. But it's where you learn, it's where you grow, it's where you open new doors, and you weren't happy where you were before anyway. So if you make a wrong choice, at least you're beginning to make some stuff happen, and you can work with what's happening. And probably eventually it may be, the long scenic tour, but you will wind up in a better place than when you started. Versus perpetually repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, torturing yourself through rumination and missing every opportunity in front of you. And more often than not, you'll make a right choice if you trust your instincts, weigh the pros and cons, see which is a better fit for you, and actually play out living that in your life. How would this feel to me actually to be on the other side, to be in that situation? Which is the right decision? Because more is lost by indecision than wrong decision. Peace, joy, and quotations by YouTube.